I like to explain concepts simply. I like to think of ideas or metrics as tools that you or I can use to figure out what something is or isn't, what the attributes of a behavioral concept might look like. So that brings us to identity politics. There's been some fuzzy ideas floating around out there, and I wanted to attempt to codify this at least a little bit. So here's my definition. Identity politics is to take an immutable human characteristic that has no inherent political value, and then to assign either a positive or a negative political value to that characteristic. It is to give political or social morality to the immutable traits of a person. So what do we mean by immutable characteristics? We mean things that don't change, or they don't change very easily, the things that constitute the foundational and most basic levels of identity. Here's the list as I see it. Gender, age, height, race or ethnicity, sexuality, weight, disability, and/or DNA-based traits. Now, obviously, our entire identity is a lot more than just these things. However, if we get carried away with what it includes, the term becomes meaningless because it means too much. So identity politics is about the basic tenets of biological identity. Think about this from a forensic or a missing person sort of angle. If you ask a lost 4-year-old in the store, "What does your mommy look like?" Or if a policeman says, "We're looking for a person who fits this description," or if a detective is examining a body at a murder scene, all of these people would use one or more of these biological identifying markers as an essential starting point. Now to address the little asterisks. Gender, or your physical sex, doesn't change easily. It's fairly fixed for 98% or more of the population, and if they transition, it's unlikely they'll just change back after a week, given that it takes upwards of 2 to 5 years to fully transition. So however you view gender, transgenderism, etc., it's not something that you change like a pair of pants, even if you do change it. It's slow, and it's pretty permanent. Weight also changes slowly and with a good deal of effort. It can change, but it's very rare to realistically or healthily go from weighing 300 pounds to 130 pounds in a very short amount of time. Sexuality is both interesting and complex when it comes to identity politics. We could go down a rabbit hole over what aspects of sexuality are immutable, if any, and how personal choice, personality, and belief affect the expression of one's sexuality, but I want this video to be under an hour long. So let's sum it all up like this. It's not so much what your sexuality is that's political, it's that your sexuality is political, no matter what it is. Under identity politics, your sexuality has a political value that can be good or bad. As for disability, again, this is about someone being good politically because they're disabled. It's a matter of if they can be questioned or challenged, or if they have more virtue simply because they are disabled. In other words, the goodness of disabled people. One thing to notice about these attributes is that most are not controllable or changeable, and those that are, change slowly. That's the point. These things are either immutable or they're very close. If we want them to change, and if they even can change, it takes a lot of time, money, and effort. So these are the factors of identity on the most basic and significant level, and they are the factors that form the basis for identity politics. This is the foundation of what identity politics is. But let's talk for a moment about what it isn't. Religion is not identity politics. Religion is a belief, and beliefs can change. Beliefs are a matter of choice. You can be born into an atheist family and eventually choose some other belief system. Ben Shapiro thinks religion should be included, and I disagree. Your religion, good or bad, is your choice, and there's nothing immutable about it. Additionally, we might note that nationality is also not identity politics. First, it's not immutable, and it's not zero-sum. You can add or subtract nationality via immigration, asylum, dual citizenship, and so on. Second, it's not biological like nearly every other aspect of identity politics. And third, it's too broad. The strength of intersectionality in identity politics is in the hierarchy of categories, but nationality is one category. One final caveat is that not all political categories of good and bad are identity politics. Calling socialists bad or lauding the virtues of poor people as good is not identity politics. If it is, then all politics is identity politics, and our definition is everything, everywhere, and again, it becomes useless. So let's reread our definition. Identity politics is to take an immutable human characteristic that has no inherent political value, and then to assign either a positive or a negative political value to that characteristic. It is to give political or social morality to the immutable traits of a person. It is to ignore meritocracy and instead favor aspects of human identity when making a value judgment. So what does it mean to give positive or negative values to the attributes of a person? What does identity politics look like in real life? It looks like humans being either lionized or vilified before they've even spoken or acted. They are assigned a political morality based on the sum of their immutable traits. You can see it when someone says this person is good because they have this immutable trait. Or, we have too many of that kind of person, and that's bad. It also means that anything that represents certain traits has a moral score attached to it. For example, the newer Ghostbusters movie is attached to the female value because of the cast. Thus, it is good whether or not it's actually good, it must be good. Conversely, the Cassie J film, The Red Pill, is bad because it's pro-male, and male is a negative value. Let me be completely clear here. Both political sides do this, the right less so, the left more so, but undeniably both sides are guilty. For example, if Candace Owens was white, would she be famous? If she were an average-looking white male of the same level of intellect, would you even know who she was? She's known because she is a black conservative. If she was a white conservative, she'd likely be a nobody, or at least less famous. As an aside, it is my considered opinion that she's not really all that conservative or authentic. The collectivist ethno-nationalist alt-right says that being white is politically good for our country and being Jewish, or black for example, is politically bad. Richard Spencer himself has said that the alt-right is identity politics for white people, and I think that pretty much sums it up. On the other side, progressive leftists say things like, we need a minority president. Old white men are the problem. It's time that a woman ran things for a while. We need more female CEOs. We need more millennials in office. Finally, we elected a black man to the presidency. Identity politics assumes these attributes to be either good or bad, desirable or undesirable, a qualification or a disqualifier. Candace Owens is a black conservative. Mark Ruffalo is a male feminist ally. Tulsi Gabbard is a female candidate. Pete Buttigieg is a gay candidate. Steve King is a white boomer representative. AOC is a millennial minority representative. But every one of the people possessing these traits does so by nothing more than the luck of the draw. But that luck of the draw determines their morality score under identity politics, and in my opinion, this should never be the case. People's choices, actions, and beliefs are what determine their morality and their relative positive or negative effect on society. And that's what identity politics leaves out. Not only the value of a person's actions, but the possibility for choice, growth, and redemption. For example, your politics, my politics, or anyone's politics can be good or they can be bad. Objectively, the truth is that anyone's political beliefs are and should be subject to the evaluation of others and to history as a whole. Your beliefs do have a value, but their value is not determined by your skin color, your gender, your age, or so on. The objective value of your belief system is far more complex than that. But fortunately, you can choose your beliefs. If you're open-minded and you find out you're wrong about something, you can discard that belief in favor of believing something better. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to redeem your ideology from a really ugly place if that's where it is. The issue with identity politics is that redemption, growth, and change are out of the question. Identity politics might say something like, you're just a cishet white male. If that's bad, well, I'm stuck. I can't move on from being in a bad place under identity politics. Dr. Peter Boghossian identified this concept as original sin. Now, Christians also believe in this concept of original sin, as Dr. Boghossian noted, but the central concept of Christianity is that original sin plagues everyone, and so redemption is for anyone. There is a redemption narrative. In the web of identity politics, and especially intersectionality, it's very much the opposite. Given where you fit into the intersectional caste system, you cannot be better than what you are. You were born into a caste through immutable traits, and you stay there. And all of these traits will tell you about other castes and your relationship to them, especially the upper castes, the righteous victims. All victims are good, and the traits will tell you who the victims are. Identity politics has created an atmosphere where people like Sean King, aka Talcum X, and Rachel Dolezal seek to become victimized minorities because victimized minorities are the Brahmins in our culture. Richard Spencer and Jared Taylor do the same thing, but they just do it with whites as the top caste. The sane and normal among us mock Richard Spencer, Dolezal, and Talcum X because their choices have made them into rotten humans, regardless of their skin color. Identity politics boxes up humans as good bad, and unchangeable. Your box is your box, your caste is your caste, and that's the way it is. But identity politics doesn't just tell you who the victims or the righteous are. It also identifies apostates, traitors, and blasphemers. Conservative gays like Gay Patriot get a lot of hate for being the wrong kind of gay, and racial minorities are ridiculed for being in the wrong party. And whites who refuse the tenets of ethno-nationalism are vilified and called cucks. The reason for this, in my opinion, is because under a given system of identity politics, each of these people should have a certain level of virtue and goodness because of their identity. When they turn out to be bad, guilty of wrongthink, or siding with the oppressors, they become the Judas Iscariots of the godless intersectional gospel. This betrayal seems to draw deep hatred and a fierce anger against those that should be good because of their identity, but instead they have aligned themselves with the worst kind of bad. This should be rather obvious, but that means that there is no good form or good use of identity politics. You cannot demonize some human traits, deify others, and still unite everyone. You cannot have some people be born bad, others be born good, and make any case for equality or unity. Identity politics can only unite you against the other side, against those persons who are the oppressors under intersectionality. If you are in one of these lower castes of oppressors, you can only make limited atonement to the betters by being complicit in your own demonization, like white allies or male feminists. What is noticeably and obviously missing in all of this is the antidote to identity politics: meritocracy. Evaluating a person on their merits and deciding that their gender isn't a merit, their skin color isn't a merit, their sexuality isn't a merit. It's deciding that their principles, beliefs, actions, skills, achievements, and capabilities are what comprise merit, quality, or worthiness. I don't need a male or a female presidential candidate to vote for. I need a capable and principled candidate to vote for, one of the highest merit. Unfortunately, we don't always get what we need. If you need a mechanic or a writer or a social media guru, do you need one that's good at what they do, or do you need one that has a certain identity? Imagine the stupidity of looking for a white mechanic instead of looking for a skilled, qualified, certified, trustworthy mechanic who has a meritorious reputation. That's insane. You would look for the best mechanic who has these qualities. In the same way, people are not politically good or bad simply because of their identity, any more than a mechanic is good or bad because of his skin color. Their identity just is. People's beliefs, principles, experience, capability, training, and achievements, when channeled through their actions and behavior, is what creates merit, character, integrity, skill, and quality. People unite around quality, the rarity and exceptionalism that individuals can display. People rally around greatness, the greatness of action and the greatness of character. Identity politics cannot rally people together unless it brings together those born with the correct traits against those born without. And honestly, I can't think of anything more divisive than demonizing people based on the way they were born.